dear students. How are you? I hope all are you good. Welcome back to another class. Today let me start English chapter number 6, The Gift of the Magi. Do you celebrate Christmas in your country? What are some of the ways that your country observes Christmas? What are some other times of the year when people in your country like to give or exchange gifts? Before you read, the famous short story by O. Henry, in which poor working class couple Della and Jim sacrificed their valuable possessions. Okay, so Della Young decided to sell her beautiful hair to buy a watch job for her husband's beloved watch. When Jim comes home, he is saddened and surprised to see Della's beautiful hair missing. He offers her his gift, bejeweled combs that she no longer needs. Della offers her gift to Jim. He looks at her and admits that he has sold his watch to buy her the combs. So the two overcome with love as they realize they have sacrificed their most prized possessions for one another. तो ये स्टोरी है एक मिडिल क्लास कपल की, डेला और जिम. ओके, सो क्रिसमस पे वो दोनों एक दूसरे को बहुत ही ऑस्पिशियस गिफ्ट देते हैं. ठीक है, और बेला जो है अपने हेयर, जो उसके लॉन्ग हेयर है, उनको सेल करके उसके लिए गिफ्ट लाती है जिम के लिए, और जिम जो है अपनी रिस्ट वॉच जो है उसको सेल करके उसके लिए गिफ्ट लाता है. बट दोनों जो गिफ्ट लाते हैं वो दोनों के लिए यूजलेस होते हैं. सो लेट्स स्टार्ट. $1.87 that was all, and 60 cents of it was in pennies. So pennies said 1 and 2 at a time by were losing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with the silent imputation. Okay, so of parsimony that such close stealing implied. 3 times Della counted it. $1.87. And the next day would be Christmas. There was clearly nothing left to do but sit down and cry. So Della did it, which instigates the moral, a reflection that life is made up of soaps and smiles, perhaps more of soaps and less of smiles. While Della is feeling sorry for herself, let us take a look at her home, a furnished flat at dollars and per week. It did not exactly beggar description but needs lot of furnishing. In the entrance, there was a letter box into which no letter would go and an electric button that did not work. Also, appertaining thereunto was a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity when its possessor was being paid $30 per week. Now when the income was shrunk to $20, the letters of Dillingham looked blurred, as though they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming debut whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above. He was called Jim and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young. Already introduced to you as Della, so which is all very good. Della finished her cry and attended to her cheeks with the powder rag. She stood by the window and looked out dully at a grey cat walking a grey face in a grey backyard. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she had only $1.87 with which to buy Jim a present. Many a happy hour she had spent planning for something nice for him, something fine and rare and startling, something just a little bit near to being worthy of the honor of being owned by Jim. There was a pier glass between the windows of the room. Suddenly she whirled from the window and stood before the glass. Her eyes were shining brilliantly, but her face had lost its color within 20 seconds. Rapidly she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length. Now there were two possessions of the James Dillingham Youngs in which they both took a mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch that had been his father's and his grandfather's. The other was Della's hair, and the Queen of Sheba lived in the flat across the air shaft. Della would have let her hair hang out of the window someday to dry just to depreciate Her Majesty's jewels and gifts. Had King Solomon been the janitor with all his treasures filled up in basement, Jim would have pulled out his watch every time he passed just to see him pluck at his beard from envy. So Nudella's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knee and made itself almost a garment for her. And then she did it up again nervously and quickly. Once she faltered for a minute and stood still while a tear or two splashed on the warm red carpets. Della quickly put her old brown jacket and old brown hat with a wall of skirts and with a brilliant sparkle still in her eyes. She cluttered out of the door and down the stairs to the street. She stopped where the sign read, "Mines offering hair goods of all kinds." Della ran up the steps to the shop out of breath. "Will you buy my hair?" asked Della. $20, said Madame, lifting Della's hair with her hand. "Give it to me quick," said Della. Oh, and the next 2 hours she was ransacking the stores for Jim's present. She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. So there was no other like it in any of the stores, and she had turned all of them inside out. It was a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design, properly proclaiming its value by substance alone and not by meretricious ornamentation, as all good things should do. So it was even worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew that it must be Jim's. It was like him, quietness and value. The description applied to both. $21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with the 87 cents. With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company. Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it on the sky on account of the old leather strap that he used in place of a chain. When Della reached home, she got out her curling irons to make her look pretty. Once more, within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny clothes-like curls that made her look wonderfully like a turned schoolboy. She looked at her reflection in the mirror long, carefully, and critically. "If Jim doesn't kill me," she said to herself, "before he takes a second look at me, he'll say I look like chorus girl. But what could I do? Oh, what could I do with $1.87? Jim was never late. Della doubled the fob chain in her hand and sat on the corner of the table near the door. There he always entered. Then she heard his step on the stairway down on the first flight. And she turned white for just a moment. She had a habit of saying little silent prayers about the simplest everyday things, and now she whispered, "Please God, make him think I'm still pretty." So the door opened and Jim stepped in and closed it. He looked thin and very serious. Poor fellow, he was only 22, and to be buttoned with a family, he needed a new overcoat and gloves. So Jim stepped inside the door and stared at Della. There was an expression in them that she could not read, and it terrified her. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she had been prepared for. He simply stared at her fixedly with that peculiar expression on his face. Della stood up and went for him. "Jim, darling," she cried, "don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold it because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It will grow out again. You won't mind, will you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Sing Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what a beautiful, nice gift I have bought for you. You have cut off your hair, asked Jim laboriously, as if he had difficulty in understanding what Della said. Cut it off and sold it, said Damon. Don't you like me just as well? Anyhow, I am me without my hair and Jim looked about the room curiously. You say your hair's gone, he said, with an air almost of idiotically. You needn't look for it, she said Della. It's so. I tell you so and gone. Too. It's Christmas Eve, boy. Be good to me, for it went for you. Maybe the hairs of my head were numbered, she went on with a subtle serious sweetness, but nobody could ever count my love for you. Shall I serve you the super, Jim? Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table. Don't make any mistake, Dan, he said. About he, I don't think there's anything in the way of haircut or a shave or a shampoo that could make me like my world endedness. But if you will unwrap that package, you may see why you had me going a while at first. Bright fingers and nimble tore at the string and paper, and then an ecstatic scream of joy, and then alas, a quick feminine change to hysterical tears and ways necessitating and the immediate employment of all the comforting powers of the lord of the flat. For the earth lay the combs, the set of combs side and back that Della had worshipped for long in a Broadway window. Beautiful combs, pure tortoise shell, with jewel rims, just the shade to wear in the beautiful vanished hair. They were expensive combs, she knew, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. And now they were hers, but the traces that should have adorned by them were gone. But she hugged them to her bosom, and at length she was able to look up with demise and a smile and say, my hair goes so fast, Jim. And then Della leaped up like a little sing cat and cried, oh, Jim. I had not yet seen his beautiful present. She held it out to him eagerly upon palm. Isn't it a dandy, Jim? I hunted all over town to find it. You will have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks on it. Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. Dell, said he, let's put our Christmas present away and keep them away. They are too nice to use just as present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy our combs, and now suppose you put the chops on. Because उसने अपनी जो वॉच है उसके कॉम के लिए सेल कर दी थी, ठीक है, और डेला उसकी वॉच के लिए जो है चेन लेके आई थी. So the Baggy, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men, who brought gifts to the babe in the manager. They invented the art of giving Christmas present. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, that it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are wisest, everywhere they are wisest, they are the man. So, dear children, the chapter is in here. I hope you all are very well understand full chapter. We will meet you in the next class. Thank you, everyone.